Back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast, your host, Tracy Hayes. Welcome to our 1-year anniversary show. 1 year ago, I published the first episode with our good friend CC Underwood of Keller Williams. And today we're at episode 71. My guest today is a lead buyer's agent for one of the top real estate teams in Northeast Florida. With over a decade of experience, he has been mentoring, leading, and producing other agents, great agents, while still keeping his own production at a high level. He is the right-hand man of the top lady of the real estate Christina Welch team. He is the cornerstone of the Welch team, or a cornerstone, I'll say. We'll say a cornerstone. We don't want to put Kelly out there. All right, let's welcome George Pottenkulam to the show.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, George, I'm so glad you come on, and this is our 1-year anniversary show, and I'm in transition again. I remember I had Christina. She was episode number 2, and it was in my office. And then we went to our nicer set at my previous location with Kelly. She got to sit in nice chairs. We're almost there. We're going to do some decorating in here and possibly the sound. This is our first episode as this transitioning studio, so bear with us on that. But I've known George pretty much your whole real estate career, because obviously I already knew Christina before that, and when you joined her team was like 2011, 12 time period.
Yes, 2011 is when she started the team, and I joined right off the bat, and then I was still a part-time agent for a little while. So yeah, I think we met in 2012.
Yeah, because I was still working at Quicken Loans at the time, and you guys were getting those leads and so forth coming from them. So, and George is really, I really admire you and what you and Kelly and Christina have formed over there. I know you have others kind of, I'll call them sub leaders, but you guys are the foundation of that triumvirate of Welch team.
Yes, I mean, between Christina obviously runs the whole team. I mean, that's her main focus is to make sure we move forward as much as we can every single day. Kelly and I kind of take over some of the buyer and the sales side of it, and then we have Kathy that sits and takes over the transaction side. So yeah, between the four of us, yes, it is a massive team to oversee.
Right. So we'll dig into the breakdown of exactly what you do. But George, give us a little background, where are you from? And I know eventually you went to UNF. Kind of tell us a little about that.
Yes. Well, I was born in India. I grew up in the Middle East, in Dubai, when Dubai was still a small little town. I was there in the 80s and 90s, graduated high school from there. And then I moved to the States to go to college, kind of like most people do. And started down in Daytona for a couple years, realized, 17, 18-year-old in Daytona Beach isn't quite the perfect place to go to college. If you want to get an education. So, So I then transferred up here to UNF, and I had a friend of mine that was going here to UNF, and he suggested to check it out, and I did. And it was a small campus back then. In 2000 when I moved here, but I mean, it's since then in the last 20 years that has blown up. Yeah. So great school, great campus, loved going there. I was on the fast track myself, so I just wanted to get my degree and move forward. So I was there from 2000 to 2003, graduated in December. So just made sure I pushed through everything as soon as I could.
What was your vision at this time of what you wanted to do?
Well, I've always, business management was my degree, and that's what I always wanted to do of some sort, run a business, own a business, and I just had no idea what that was going to be in. So that's what kind of led me into my first job. At the time, I worked part-time, full-time at several different call centers, T-Mobile, ADT. I did a few things, just whatever worked into my school schedule. Right. So I would go to school, whether it be in the morning through the afternoon, and then work for 8 hours after that, and I would just change my schedule every semester. So once I graduated, I started working for Hertz Rent-A-Car and went into their management training program. Perfect thing for any new fresh.
I think Christina went to Enterprise, right?
She went to Hertz too.
She went to Hertz too.
Yep.
Okay,
that's actually where we met. So we met in 2004. She was working in the Beaches office. I was working off of Atlantic Boulevard. We quickly, within that first year, I think we both got to a management position. So I ran the Atlantic Boulevard location. She ran Jacksonville Beaches and Sawgrass and a couple other locations around there. We got to know each other just hanging out.
Trading cars.
Yeah, pretty much. It was one of those things where while we were there, you worked hard, you played hard. We went out almost every evening, hanging out, whether it's just dinner and friends hanging out, getting some drinks, going out to bars, whatever it might be.
Right.
But we got to know each other pretty well back then. Her fiance at the time and I got along really well. Him and I have been essentially good friends for the past
15 years, 12, 15 years. Yeah.
It's 2004, so we're going up almost on 20 years of friendship, and so we just all of us just got along so well.
So you weren't the son of some rich Dubai prince.
No, not so much.
You actually had to go to. You were able to get here, but had to work your way through college.
Yes.
So you've paid your dues, and you get out there. Hertz and Enterprise have hire a lot of young graduates, and they're very stringent on who they hire too. And then, but because they're putting you through a management program,
right?
They're putting some dollars into you.
Yeah, they're walking. The goal for them is you take young individuals who are freshly out of college, who want to have some sort of a career, and they teach them how to run a business. You essentially are required to manage your inventory with the cars in and out. You manage your employees. You hire, you train, you fire. You develop individuals from just trainees to assistant managers and then managers.
Right.
And hopefully you're also in that same track of being able to move up the chain from being just a store manager to maybe multiple store managers to an area manager and so on and so forth. And we still have friends who are Hertz employees for 25 years now. You can build a phenomenal career through them if you just go through it. And sometimes you got to move around and you got to be able to check out areas.
They can be demanding.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, and I think that's one reason why they kind of grab the young person, because they're hopefully finding that hungry young person that's going to put in the extra hours when it's needed, and make it because they want to have that. They want that store to be theirs, right? They kind of give you that ownership mentality from that standpoint. How is that? You think about it. Were you there like about 5 years or so?
2004 to 08, 09.
Okay, so
about 4 or 5 years.
How do you think that set your mindset into what you're doing now? I mean, do you still kind of, if you think about some of the things you're doing today, you take it from what you were doing then and what they trained you to do?
Oh, 100%. I mean, back then, so things between cold calls and sales calls, those are just huge things that we did going out into meeting with accounts. Depending on where your location was, sometimes you're a little bit more heavy towards the dealerships and body shops, and sometimes you're a little bit more heavy towards hotels and businesses. So you got real good about being able to get past gatekeepers and find out the right information to talk to people, how
prospecting, networking.
Networking, especially networking. I mean, majority of the times that you went out on these sales calls, you then have to get them to like you in order to.
Because if I recall, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but Hertz kind of came out. I mean, Enterprise kind of came out with the local mentality. Hertz came from the airport to the local.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. So you were trying to break a mindset that Enterprise was the only local lender, that now Hertz actually is in that game.
Absolutely. And so that's what Enterprise, was a monopoly in the local business. I mean, they're the only ones that really had local stores. They're the ones that had all the agreements with dealerships and body shops and small airports and things like that. So for us to come in and have to break that mold and be able to constantly go after the big dog at that time, it was a lot of work. So we worked 12-hour days almost. We were there at 7 o'clock in the morning, getting the office ready, your fleet ready, getting people ready to go, and then staying late to try and make sure everything's ready for the next day.
So you go there, and I have FC attorney management. What were you doing there? They were there for a few years.
When Christina and I were kind of hitting that glass ceiling of Hertz, and she decided, hey, let's go and get our real estate license. So in 2006, we both got our real estate license. We work till 7 o'clock, and then from 7 to 9, typically we were in the Watson school getting our license. And as soon as we got it, she went headfirst into it,
Right.
and was like, okay, I'm gonna go make myself a realtor and create a huge business. And I wasn't quite ready to do that, so I tried to do it part time.
She punished herself through those,
Oh, yeah.
because the downturn of 08 and 09, you're probably sitting back going, are you sure you want to do that?
And that's when I dipped out. I was like,
Right.
2008, I'm like, this is just not working for me. I was still working for her,
Right.
and like that was my primary job, and I wasn't really. I didn't think I was going to be able to really make that work either. So a friend of mine from Hertz had left a few years before, and he started working for Fidelity at the time, and they turned into lender processing services, which basically created the foreclosure management system for almost every single big bank that's out there.
Right.
So that's what he was doing. So when Hertz was kind of like on the back end, he suggested, why don't you come over and check that out? So that's what I did. And it's funny, he was my trainee for a couple of years, and then became an assistant manager and then a branch manager. And then I was the opposite. I got
trained
to be
under him.
Yeah, I trained under him. He was my manager. And then as he started moving up within foreclosure management, I started moving up, and I took his role eventually. So it was great to again build those relationships and
Right.
have that opportunity, because
Learn the back end of the business that you normally would not have had exposure to.
Absolutely. In 2008, 9, 10, 11. So I was there from 08 till 12 or 13, I think, depending on when I got laid off. But the market was so heavy with foreclosures, and so there was really no reason for me to do anything else, because that was a great business to be in.
Right.
I was working downtown, right off of Riverside Avenue, and it was great to be in that area, especially in the evenings and things like that, when you can walk out to restaurants, and the landing was still there.
But that starts to slow down. They cut your department. They're
Yes.
laying you off.
Pretty much. And then at that point,
Christina's starting to ramp up.
Yep. 2011 is when she asked me to join back on the team, and I said yes, and I did the same thing. I stayed part-time till I could get enough footing under myself and enough income to be able to say, okay, I can leave my job. And then I got my hand forced a little bit, because as that was going downhill, my department, I went from managing 60 people between work at homes and in the office to managing one person in the office, one person at home. Took a lot of work, but essentially I realized at that point, okay, my time's up, or my time was getting up. And so I had already started transitioning myself full-time into real estate, and just waiting on, the hammer to come down and be able to say, okay, hey,
So she says, let's join the team. I mean, the vision that she had probably imagined, painted to you at the time of what this team would look like. I mean, has it changed greatly? I mean,
it took more time.
Right.
She always had this vision of, okay, I'm gonna from the time when she got into real estate and became successful in 2010, when she realized, okay, I can make this into a great business. I just got to figure out how. And that's when she started reading the Millionaire Real Estate book, and then from there she realized, okay, I can step out of this eventually, have all these people under me to run the business and continue to grow, and then she can continue to grow that business out. So she had that vision,
right.
but to get there was going to take a lot of work, and that's what she wanted to start out with, was me and Kelly. I was the buyer's agent. Kelly was the admin, assistant, showing assistant, executive assistant. Kelly did whatever Christina asked needed to be done. So.
Right. Okay. At this time, I'm trying to think of 2012, because I know, of course, you guys are so big, much bigger now than obviously then. And I know some people have come and gone, which happens. We'll talk a little bit about that when we actually dig into the business. But you got laid off. You show up at Christina's office, says, let's do it. You're a new agent. You got to start your own business, because you got to get paid. It's not like she just gave you, hey, here's 10 agents. I want you to, mentor them up, and you're going to get an override. Right. You got to start your business. So as a new agent now full time, you're walking into that office every day. What's your mindset at this time? And obviously, I assume Christina's a little bit of a mentor.
Oh, 100%.
At this time, what is she having you do as a new agent at that time that got you ramped up in your business?
Well, I did exactly what she did when she started in 2006 and especially in 2008 and 9, where she had to sit down, make 100 phone calls a day, just constantly calling people, the people that you called yesterday or the day before and the month before and 3 months before. I would just call. She had done a phenomenal job from 2006 through 12 and 11 when she started the team of maintaining a phenomenal database of people to where it wasn't, they weren't 100% cold calls. I mean, we did cold calls too, but they were, say, warm leads. They had reached out at one point. Maybe they weren't ready then. Maybe they're not ready now. But I was continuing to
maybe they were
those.
slightly upside down.
Yeah.
Initial call. Now they may have equity or break even, get out.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I just continued doing that. So every single day I would come in, make phone calls, and I think the coming in part was my big focus because that's all I was used to.
Yep.
I had
Showing
to
up.
Show up every single day to
run your business.
So if you didn't show up, you didn't get paid, and if you don't get paid, I mean, eventually your business is going to suffer. So.
It's one of the things I hear consistently. I hear consistent on, when I'm bouncing around different podcasts and grabbing information there. One of the bottom line things is showing up. You got to get up. Just because you're not clocking in at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, like you were at Hertz, right. You have to show up and turn the lights on of your business and get on there and start making the phone calls. Or, I know you're involved in some different B&I type groups and so forth. And a lot of times they meet at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And if you're organizing it, you're up that much earlier to make sure everything's ready.
100%. Well, and I think it's something that I try to work with everybody now is to tell them, you got to treat real estate as a regular career, where you clock in every morning at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever it is, and you put in an 8-hour day. If you don't put in that 8-hour day, and of course, just like with any other business, there's time that you goof around, you talk, you hang out with the people that in the office and you want to get to know them better. So that's there. That's just part of it. But you've got to be there. You've got now. I think with the last couple of years, everybody's working from home. They're a little bit more, I guess, disciplined to stay. I'm not.
So I do believe it's costing people a lot of money because they've gotten to this mindset of, oh, let me just work from home today. And they're not turning the lights on of their business. Right. They're finding other things to do and distractions or TV shows or, whatever it may be. And now some people, there are some people that are great on it. Yeah. But as a new agent, and I'm sure as the people you bring in, you tell them for whatever amount of period you're here every morning at 8, 9 o'clock or whatever it is, you guys can start it.
Yeah, any new agent that starts with a team, first 90 days, they're in the office. 9 to 5 is pretty much your schedule. More than likely, you're working more than that because you got showings in the evenings or you've got inspections or whatever else going on. So there's a lot in that aspect of it. But yes, you showing up every single day makes a difference, especially in real estate because anybody can go take that test. Anybody can write a contract or can go through the process. But when we deal with individual situations, because that real estate is so unique, every situation is different. You're never going to learn or even be able to write a manual to tell people, hey, this is what you do in this situation, because sometimes we don't even remember or know how to handle those things until it comes up.
Right.
So
that's not a problem until it's a problem.
Exactly.
Right. So I always like to touch on for agents. I'm sure some of the new agents that you're mentoring now are going to watch or watching right now. What were some of the challenges that you had, whether it was mentally, obviously sitting down and dialing 100 dials a day, that's taxing at times.
Oh yes. I mean, it is. I mean, even now, if you sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to make X amount of phone calls, I'm going to do this much of work, it gets tiresome, doing even if you were just going out showing properties, if you showed 18 homes in a day, you're going to be exhausted. You're not going to remember 90% of the team. Not saying that you do that with one person, but multiple people. So doing one thing again and again and again constantly is going to tire you out, and it's going to just make you unhappy. So you've got to split up your day. You've got to do different things throughout to be able to take a break, take a mental break from what you're doing. I know challenges for most people is that, one, we're in a great market right now. Finding people to buy a home is not hard. Maybe
Challenging to sell a little more.
yes.
We get someone to sell, that's like gold, right?
Yes, absolutely. So that can be a little bit more of a challenge, but at the end of the day, that's getting easier and easier. But in this market, when you have tons of people that are looking to buy and sell, generally you are in an easy market to be able to say, okay, I can make some money. But if you are struggling, and there's times the market will change, will shift, we'll always have that. So when we're in a position of when, you have to make 15 phone calls to get one person to talk to you, that can be harder and harder, and you have to do that time and time again for multiple hours in a day, whether you split that up or do something, but you've always got to constantly do that. I think that's where people struggle with. On the opposite side too, you have a lot of success. Like the past 2 years, people have had a ton of success, and now we're starting to see maybe a little bit of a shift, or maybe we just have more agents on the market, so it makes it harder to get.
Now, I've been in your office, you guys, and it reminds me, I was at Sarah Rocco's office not too long ago, and she's got her team in this little room with the little cubes, and you guys got that kind of set up too, so they can sit there and make their calls. But what do you when you guys are initially interviewing to accept somebody on your team? I don't like to use hire because you're not paying them a salary, but to accept someone to come on your team and to do that they know that they're going to be sitting in this little room with 3 or 4 other people, and you guys are hopefully getting some energy off each other, but pushing each other to sit there and make those dials that you're talking about.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of time doing that before that starts to bear fruit.
Oh, yes, 100%. I mean, even as whether you're a new agent or even if you had a little bit of success, sitting down and making phone calls, you'll have good days and bad days. Sometimes you have more bad days than good days. So, and especially if you're in a room with multiple other people making those phone calls, those are other challenges as well, with just listening to other people's conversations, or it being hard for the other person on the other line to hear what you're saying because there's multiple people talking. Those are all little challenges that you deal with. But again, it's something that everybody has to go through.
Yeah. I think people lose touch with the fact that, you can make great money as a real estate agent, as a loan officer, you can make great money, but there are things you need to do. And if it was so easy, everyone would be doing it. Now, everyone may try it as a real estate agent, but not many last, because there is work involved to make the good money that that everyone, I think, enters real estate dreams of.
Right. I mean, how many people I know for real estate wise, we've had so many people go out to get their license and are still in the pipeline of getting their licenses, more so in these last 2 years than we ever had in the past. I'm sure it's the same thing on the lending side, because of how good business was. There's been more and more loan officers trying to get in or get into the business or start. I'm sure there's been a bunch of new lending companies out there as well. But that's just because that's what the market dictated, and that's where we are.
Right.
But now the ones that last, most of the companies and the real estate agents that last that long are the ones that have built a foundation, are able to sustain it, whether you have this type of a market where everybody wants to buy a home, or we're in a market where it's a bunch of short sales and foreclosures, because they all take a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of time. I mean, when we were in 2011 and 12, we were still dealing with foreclosures and short sales that took 4 to 6 months and even a year to 2 years. I think our longest was 2 years. So, and that's before you get paid. So, it's amazing what all you have to do in between to be able to, sustain that business.
So, I know Christina gets leads from several different sources and so forth, and everyone's calling them. You guys have a constant database, which you have a plan where you're going to call them so many times a year and so forth. How do you, when those new agents come to you, it's something I'm working with here with the loan officers, to dig into the people they already know. What are some of the tips that you give them to reach out to their circles of influence and let them know that they're in real estate?
Well, we have, I mean, that's part of our 90-day plan, you know, so we start off that first week, getting them on the phones, making phone calls. And that's the easiest phone call to make, you know, to somebody you already know.
Right.
And all you're doing is just letting you know, hey, I'm in real estate. Wasn't sure if you were aware. I changed careers, got a new job, whatever, switched teams, whatever it might be, is making that first attempt to let them know what you're there for. And most times, great. That's all you do. You don't need to do anything else. And it's going to take multiple times if you're doing that over a year or 2 years or 3 years before that cousin, uncle, aunt, brother, sister, whatever is willing to give you a chance.
Right.
Because more than likely, they probably know multiple people in real estate.
Right.
Multiple people are realtors.
Well, they know you.
Yeah.
And maybe you didn't have the great, whatever. They want to see if you're going to stick with it.
Exactly.
Now, there are some people you call and they're like, yeah, I'm looking to sell my house. You can list it. And you're like, George, help me out. You know, that's going to happen.
Yes.
What do you guys do to, do you build in that circle of influence into the database that you're already doing to trickle on, or did you guys do anything special for the warm circles?
I guess it would depend on the individual, like what that sphere is. But generally, we will say every single one of your sphere of people that you know, everybody knows at least 100 people. It's not that hard. You know, you look through your phone, you know a bunch of them. You put that all into our contact management system, and you set up a plan. Follow up with them, whether it's a monthly plan, a quarterly plan, daily plan. Hopefully it's not daily because that'd be way too much work. But I mean, it's something to remind those people that you are in real estate, you're here, you want to be able to earn their business, even if it's just an opportunity. So it's just a constant thing.
And it's not a one-touch thing. You have to continue to remind them, because you can call them one time, they had that conversation, and then 6 months later, they're at a cookout and their friend says, hey, do you know a good realtor? And they're like, yes. And you're upset because they didn't recommend you. Well, you should have touched them probably 6 times, reminding them that, hey,
and it's showing value too, because every single phone call that you make, if you just say, I'm in real estate, now, you know, do you know anybody that wants to buy or sell? You're probably not going to get much success out of that. So the goal is, with every single call that you make, you come in with some sort of a value add, with a stat with the market, talking about the area, whether it be something that you heard, a situation you dealt with. It's just something that you got to bring into that conversation, or just learning about them. You know, a lot of times, if you stay consistently in touch with your sphere, they will send you business. It's not hard. Eventually, it naturally comes through. You know, even if you make no phone calls to your sphere, if they constantly see that you're in real estate, usually about that 3 to 4 year mark, they tend to say, okay, this person's been doing it long enough. I can trust them to sell my most expensive asset. Right. So, but the only way you're going to turn that business into that first year and second year versus waiting for your third year, because most people don't typically get that long if you're just waiting for the business to come in. You have to be able to intentionally go after them. Right. I will say I made that mistake of not doing it right in the beginning, because I had the luxury of working with Christina, who had a ton of business already, and I just had to work her database. Right. So I was able to work through that piece of it to sustain me for a few years, and then I was able to work through my own sphere and then expand that out. So now you might have moved up a little quicker in the sense of your volume if you jumped right into your stuff too at the same time. Absolutely. So that's a tip right there. Both Kelly and I both say the same thing all the time. If we had only got to our sphere faster, we probably would have been a more successful agent 2 years and before we really were. So. And it's whether it's would you agree? It could be sending your friends and family a card every month, just with, say, hey, I'm here. Here's my business card. Social media is another way to do it. Yes. I'm sure you guys, if it's obviously calling, periodically and touching, but you got to keep touching them. As I was telling at the sales meeting this morning to everyone, it's June, July, and August.
If there's any 3 months that any quarter of the year that anyone's going to say someone's going to sell a home, if they're going to sell one, it's going to be during right now.
Right.
School's out and they're making the transitions. It's time to get on the phone and call everyone you know. Do you know any friends, family, or coworkers who may be looking to buy or sell a home or refinance?
Right.
Because they're likely to be doing something in the next 3 months. And so if you could have done nothing last month, you can turn it on the next 30 days. You might make the summer very profitable.
Absolutely.
For you.
And
Yeah.
I mean, we've known agents for years that all they work is June, July, August. If they will sell 30 to 40 homes in that time frame, and then the rest of the year they just mail it in because you can. So it's so easy to do that. And it's changed a little bit with our market and the way businesses have been, but generally this is still the busiest time of year. It is the most convenient time of year to move because kids are out of school and don't have to interrupt their lives. But if you don't have school, majority of the people probably do, and that just makes it easier to find availability of a home as well. So it's just simple.
You tipped on and that's very good. That strengthened my speech this morning. That you and Kelly, you felt you should have gotten into your personal spheres faster when you got started. And then there's a lot of creative ways to do that. There's a lot of podcasts and books and everything like that. Tell us something, because I know you guys as a team have evolved. You had some people come and go over time, but it seems now retention seems, because you seem to have a much larger team now. I haven't been in your office, but when I had you guys all a couple months ago, it's getting to be a nice sized team. So you guys have evolved. What are what is a couple of mistakes, or when you have that new agent in front of you that you're trying to say, hey, don't do this because I've done it and fell on my face, besides that circle of influence?
Yeah, I've had the part-time situation come up a few times before, and I'm like the perfect testament, because when I try to do part-time, you're basically giving half to both your jobs, and it never works out. So I'm usually the person that talks to somebody who wants to start it out part-time and really get it going, and you will never get it to that point until you give 100%. So Christina reminded me that time and time again, and until I really was sort of forced my hand into doing it, I really wouldn't have ever made real estate successful unless she had pushed me, and my job had pushed me as well. So that's definitely one piece, but the ups and downs of real estate is just so common that everybody has it. You do a ton of work to build up to it, and then you get busy and you're out showing properties, you're writing contracts, you're getting things under contract, you're moving forward. And because you're doing that, you kind of let that lead gen, prospecting piece of it kind of fall to the wayside a little bit.
Doing that busy work.
Yes. It's like, no, I don't need to do that. I've got so much business. And then you hit that high point. You got all these contracts going. And then once those all close out, you've got no more prospects.
Right.
Because now you got to get back into that lead gen time. So there's that dip in the time. That up and down is one of probably the biggest thing that we see with everybody. Like even though you are busy, give yourself that hour, 2 hours a day that you have to prospect, have to do follow-up, constantly trying to fill up that pipeline, because eventually it'll run dry if you don't continue to fill it. So that's probably another big thing that we push, and that's why we ask people to always come to the office. Prospect. Because if it's the same thing like going to the gym. I mean, if you go to the gym by yourself, you're never gonna, really push yourself. But if you go to a class or you go with somebody, you're pushing yourself a little bit harder each time to get a little bit better. And that's the same thing with real estate.
All right. So you brought up something there interesting about, there's a lot of, we'll just use the term administrative work that needs to be done. Christina, the team is providing the transaction coordinators to relieve people of having to do a lot of that.
Yes.
But do you still have, as I know I have loan officers that feel they got to coddle that loan all the way through, versus letting the people who specialize in handling that prior to close administrative stuff. Again, for lack of better terms, I don't want to think administrative sound. That's very important stuff. It has to be done, and the better you do it, the better everyone is and looks in the process. How important is it, or when you're coaching, to say, hey, let that transaction coordinator let Kathy and her team do what they're supposed to do?
I mean, we do that all the time, and I was guilty of that when I was a new agent as well, because I had done so much. I'd built so much rapport with these people, with these buyers, that I felt I was the only one that could help them.
Right.
You know, I was the only one fast
They
enough.
only want George.
Yeah, they only want me. They only want to talk to me. I'm the only one that can walk them off the ledge. You know,
Right.
so yes, I used to, and I always, you know, communication and, you know, things like that were always big for me. You know, still now, but back then I was like, if I see a text message, an email, a phone call, I have to respond to it immediately. So when it was under contract and maybe our transaction coordinator had an hour gap before they responded, I was already freaking out. So that still happens now. I mean, we take so much ownership of that piece of it, and we know, because if we don't close that contract, we're not going to get our paid. So, and that's, you know, taking food off our table. Right. So yes, there's that piece of it is another big thing that we coach on, because newer agents or experienced agents, when you do the same thing again and again and again, you get really good at it. You get really good at showing homes. You get really good at talking to customers. You get really good at writing a contract. Those are the things that we do on a daily basis that we have become really, really good at. And so we can write 40, 50 contracts in a year and, you know, be able to close all of those. Right. And our transaction coordinators on the opposite side can't basically do the exact same thing. They're really good at writing repair agreements. They're really good at negotiating low appraisals. They're really good at coordinating the inspection,
following, making sure those things are actually being done on time.
Exactly. Right. Reaching out to the lender in a timely fashion, making sure timelines aren't missed. Those are so important that, because we don't do it on a daily basis, and most realtors, because we're realtors and we're successful for a reason, because we're out and about, we're more outgoing, we're not very good at the administrative piece of it. So we've got to be able to.
Well, even if you are, it
takes time.
I mean, unless you're really bad at showing homes and networking, then maybe you should be the person sitting in the office, but not saying the person sitting in the office can't do that. But the phrase I use, and I've heard in the podcast, the amount of you, if you're really good at the $500 an hour job, wouldn't you want to do pay $500 throughout your entire day? Or you want to pay $500 for an hour, but get paid $20 an hour for the rest of the day because you're busy doing it. And eventually you won't have the $500 hour because all of a sudden you have no leads in your pipeline anymore. Exactly. No active clients because you're too busy calling lenders when you have someone actually that does that.
It's amazing how much time, and it's the same thing. It takes 8 hours a day to maintain some of those contracts, and it takes 8 hours a day to go find new buyers and be able to show them a home. So. Right. There's only so much time in the day. Right. So that's why most single agents, they can do, by them, if they were doing everything by themselves, somewhere in that 20, 25 range is what a really successful, hopefully mentally good, right. Not stressed out, not want to kill themselves type of thing, agents will do. But if you want to go anything above that, and if you want to be able to say, okay, I want to earn, 200, 300, 400,000 a year and still be able to have a good life, to be able to hang out with my family. Go out on the boat, go out on the beach, take a vacation. Right. You're never going to be able to do that unless you have a team of sorts, whether you have an assistant yourself, have a transaction coordinator, have somebody that's doing some other portions of that business for you, because it's all different aspects. And if you don't have somebody helping you, taking over that side of it, you're never going to be able to get to the 500 an hour type of job.
Right. You're leading, I don't know how many agents you got right now on your buyer side that you're sort of mentoring. And
so we have 8 buyers agents, excluding myself. We have a couple of assistants with some of those agents. So we have a pretty big buyer side team. 8 people that are running their own business, but come in there and are part of your team because they want the energy that you guys have created, the structure and so forth. So what are you doing to stay on top of your game? Because I imagine there comes, whether you're doing a sales meeting or doing a training the next day, what are you doing to stay sharp and be able to deliver them, motivation, leadership, and, keep them fired up? Well, so, part of my day is obviously some parts of it I work on my own business, but a big chunk of my day is working and developing, growing, and figuring out different things to do to help our agents get better at it. With me still actively selling, that keeps me in the loop with what's going on, knowing what the struggles are for those buyers agents, knowing what the struggles are with whether it's showing properties, getting something under contract, dealing with some of the rejection or the objections people have with why they don't want to buy a home right now, or why they want to cancel a contract. So that really helps me stay grounded with the business side of it, but at the same time, constantly being mentored still at this point with Christina and Kelly, and being able to grow with different suggestions that they have on how I can help those agents get better. I have weekly meetings. We have, just the buyer's agents.
Well, I mean, but are you reading any books? You follow anybody?
Yeah, Christina will tell you that. I'm the worst reader when it comes down to it. So
I do have audiobooks. Too.
Yeah, that's probably my biggest struggle, and with just not having enough time.
Right.
And back when I was, an agent on my own, I'd be driving 30, 45 minutes. So I would listen to podcasts and things like that. But now I don't do that as often. So I have less.
You're on a call a lot of times with some of the agents that you're mentoring.
Exactly.
Going through their situations.
I don't think I have the free time or the drive time, which wasn't really free, but I don't have the drive time to be able to expand some of that piece of it that I used to. So now I'm forcing myself into reading or listening to audiobooks or reading small things, articles, short things, because I think that's my bandwidth. I only have that. And plus my mind, and when I listen to audiobooks, one of my biggest problems was that my mind would tend to wander to something else. And then all of a sudden I'll catch on something of what they say, and I feel like I missed something. So I'll rewind it and then listen to it again. But
to touch on that, there's a lot of great, whether it's on the real estate side or the loan officer side, podcasts that are actually 30 minutes. And for anyone out there and you're not listening to what other great people are doing, tap in. A lot of them are just 30 minutes or even 20 minutes, and they're talking to somebody, and they may give you one nugget
exactly
that motivates you for that day. Go, oh, I need to share that with my team. Yeah.
And that's where I find my success now, is that listen to a podcast, listening to something short, because that's, again, I have the time to
and
do
the
it.
show's designed that way, and to give you the nuggets, get right down to the nitty-gritty. Yeah.
And there's good ones out there. There's bad ones out there. You may not pick up something, but majority of the time, you always walk away with one nugget, something that you can learn from. And I do a few other things with like networking and, different groups to kind of grow. And everything always has some sort of an education piece. So you're still learning and taking some of those aspects back to my team to be able to say, okay, how do I pick this up today? This is what we want to try and expand on as far as our weekly meetings go. So that really does help.
Well, you said a word there, education. How important is it for that new agent to come in? Obviously, they got to make the dials. You got that time of the day you're going to set aside. But how much other of it is, whether it's a training with you or going down to NEFAR, or, I know, different vendors bring in different people to talk. How important is it for them to be there, and how important education is to their growth and their learning curve to get up and start making money?
I mean, it's huge. I mean, we're up front in the first 90 days, we pile everything we can into that education calendar. Our team itself does a phenomenal job with education, with what we provide in the office. So even now, even for our existing agents who have been doing this for 7, 8, 9 years, we have a weekly training that's basically open up to any agents or anybody in the industry that wants to come listen to. From every Thursday at 9 o'clock, we have an education series that we run through from the entire year, with the exception of a couple of days here and there. But we are constantly trying to develop and grow our team, or whether it's a new agent or an existing agent. We're always trying to grow that. We have, in a general week, we have at least 2 trainings that are done, and then typically 1 or 2 meetings that are just part of the team that you're part of. So we do a script training once a week. We do the education piece every week. So it is so important, and that's kind of the reason what Christina looked at joining Keller Williams, is because they harped on education so much,
right?
And we're trying to take that to the next level, to be able to push that within our team, to constantly grow and constantly develop, because we know it's an ever-changing industry, right? Between contracts and systems and sales strategies, there's always something new to learn and to expand on.
One of the terms that comes up, well, there's three things. Education is always one, and all the great people that I've been interviewing. Consistency is another. What is it? Again, you're leading these 8 buyers agents here. What is it that they've got to bring every day? What are some practices that they need to be doing every day and be consistent at it and keep doing it? And it may not bear fruit now, but eventually it's going to hit a tipping point, and it's consistency is all about.
And that's probably goes back to the lead gen and the follow-up piece. Doing that consistently every single day is what's going to make the difference between being successful and being maybe okay for a short period of time. Because eventually pipelines run out, your business runs out, people don't, because you didn't follow up with them, people stop referring back to you. So that is our biggest push. And and our contact management system, which we use Salesforce, has been super helpful and basically just carves out your day for you. Because you anything that you need to do, whether you set up a task or set up a follow-up, your Salesforce will tell you what you need to do today. So makes it simple. You just got to follow. And who you
need calling. So you can set it up and be so simple-minded. You don't even really have to think much other than, hey, Salesforce says I need to spend 2 hours calling these people. I need to get on the phone and do it. Yep. So if you want that structure there, but the bottom line is you've got to set up something that you're consistently reaching out, touching your people, again, through I know you guys are doing some things on social media. Mm-hmm. You're whether it's, obviously, I know you guys do a lot of phone calls. I've heard other agents talk about when, Buffini talks about, we're sending out cards every month, just constantly, I'm a real estate agent. I'm a real estate agent. I'm a real estate agent. Yes. You got to keep telling everybody, this is what I do, because you want to be the first person that comes up, man, that guy that keeps calling me, call him, because hopefully he'll stop calling me.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, that's it. I mean, we want to be, you don't have to be annoying. You just want to be informative.
Right.
And if you are providing good value every single time you reach out, and it doesn't have to be a phone call every time. It can be a text, an email, a social media post,
right,
a face-to-face conversation. I mean, everything.
Somebody sold their house in the neighborhood. Yeah. Just want to let you know, hey, did you know that house went for $200 a square foot or whatever?
Yes. Yeah. And it's crazy. And now I have a good sphere that I'll get random text messages like, hey, I know you mentioned you have people in the house. I saw this guy post in our internal group that he's going to list it before. So I just want to give you a heads up because it's good. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm taking that information. I may not necessarily have somebody, but I know my team may, so I'm shooting that out. And then we built, and that is one big thing I know within our team, if you go back to the reason why we have so many people stay on our team for years, and that retention piece is because we are truly a team. We want to see each other succeed. Yes, we've all battled each other for the same home multiple times in the past, but I mean, it's a competitive market. That's going to happen. But nobody wants to see each other fail. So we all want to build each other up. That's the reason why whenever somebody has a question and we put it on our little internal chat, there's going to be 4 or 5 people that have an answer, or will rabbit hole into something else typically from there, which happens often. But we're truly trying to help, and it doesn't matter if you're on the buy side or on the list side or a transaction coordinator. If somebody needs help, we're all going to be there to help out.
Right.
I've put on a post where I've said, hey, I need somebody to show a property, and one of our transaction coordinators is willing to do it because it's convenient, and
she lives down the street, whatever.
Exactly. Right. So, and the other side is like every single one of our agents, everybody's an agent on our team. We have a 30-plus team, and we have 2 people that may not have their license.
You mentioned retention, which is a challenge with the teams. I think, again, I'm going to quote Sarah Rocco again, because she has a great Keller Williams team as well. We were talking about, when I asked her about Peace, what does she do to stay sharp? And one of the statements she said was you have to consistently be adding value to your team, because when you're no longer adding value, then they start looking other places. Yeah. So I'm sure this part here has probably been something that has been developing for you guys and have gotten better at it. What are some of the things that you're doing now that maybe you weren't doing in 2015 as far as retention or things that you're inputting into your program to continue to add value?
I mean, it's probably a little bit of everything. We're constantly trying to grow. We're trying to expand and change our team to benefit everybody. So Christina's never been one to say, it's my way or the highway type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So she's always willing to listen to groups, try and see different people's perspective, and try and change the way we do things to if it truly betters the team, why not? So that is definitely one thing that we've gotten a lot better on, and I'll say that recently, to where we've listened to some of the changes or the situations our agents have, and seeing if we can improve that and just maybe change the way our business is modeled, because it isn't a perfect way of doing it. That's why Rocco's got a different version of doing it. CC's got a different version of doing it. Every team runs different. We're all successful. And we're all successful in different ways because that's what works with our people, and everybody on our teams, I think, will all say we love working for our team,
Right.
and that you could see that with any successful team. If your core people are there all the time, it means that you're doing something right.
You attract like kind.
Mm-hmm.
And people think about how CC runs her business is different how Christina or Sarah runs hers, but you will attract like kind, and those who stay, obviously, your visions are aligned, your ideology of how you see a business to be run, is in line, and that's where you're comfortable with being around other successful people as well. Which brings us into the last thing we haven't tipped on, and I know you're involved a lot in the different B&I groups, and you live in the same neighborhood. You got that group you have there as well. How important is it for new agents? It doesn't even have to be new agents, because I see some of the best agents doing this all the time, hanging out with other successful agents, or even other just people in the real estate industry.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so important. I mean, just like we talked about, like, everybody's got a different personality, every different mindset. The only way you can continue to grow in your own personal life and your professional life is to meet and hang out with and learn from other people. And it doesn't always have to be real estate. And more than likely it won't, because they're doing things differently. So you got to figure out, can you take some parts of that? But the more important successful people in different businesses, the mindset's still the same. You want to grow, you want to develop, you want to be successful. So learning from that and taking different suggestions and different opinions of how they handle an employee situation or a customer situation, it directly applies back to you every single time. Right. And I think that really makes a big difference for you personally, because you've got to go in and figure out what works best for you. What I do with networking and my Durban Connect that's in our neighborhood, that's successful for
I'm not sure why it's called Durban, but go ahead.
I can't remember why we started up that way, but but it's there. But you got to find out what works best for you. You know, so I've had some of our agents who have kids in their sports teams, and go hang out with those people, because you got other professionals in there.
You have a common thing, your kids.
Yep.
On the same team. People generally automatically, the trust factor is a little bit there already. You live in the same neighborhood. There's a trust factor there, because we obviously must like some of the same things. We're in the same area. To exploit that and I think you'll agree with this. Some of those other business owners in your Durban Connect and the other B&Is that you've been involved in, they're telling stories, customer service issues, this and that. And now you're expanding your library in your head, that when you're interacting with a new client in the area, that business owner told you about a great restaurant, or maybe a restaurant not to go to, or whatever little nugget is. It's adding to your, I call it verbal ammunition, but you're able to expand to make you look more knowledgeable. You look more connected, which you are, because you're showing up and connecting with these other business owners and sharing, because all of you are all networking. Absolutely. You're all trying to find new clients internally and externally.
Yes, and that's the point. I mean, that's the only way we're ever going to expand our knowledge is to expand our base, and that's what's most important for anybody who is any business, and it doesn't have to be real estate or lending. It's the part of getting to know other people and expanding your knowledge.
All right, so I'm gonna dig in here because I got about just 5 minutes left or so. Try to keep this under an hour.
Yeah.
When you guys, I think I don't know. It probably just my perception. At one time, probably I wouldn't say any agent. You were a little more open to the type of agents you're coming in, but now you're probably narrowing it down. Who is going to be put on this team?
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. So if we have a new agent or maybe an agent out there, maybe, like Katie Benza, who was working with somewhere else and you brought her in, what are some of the things that you're looking for as a fit for the Welch team from an agent standpoint?
I mean, it comes back down to our culture and our values. I mean, if we feel that you match that, your experiences, what you did before, or how great you are as a realtor now, that really is secondary. We want to find somebody who fits well with the team, more importantly than anything else. If you fit well, you will last with the team, and that we see that with Nathan Edwards and Kelly and Lori, Lexi, Jana Silverman, who's been with our team now for so long. These are all agents that have, at one point thought, okay, let's join the team. Let me learn the business. Let me figure out how to work a team myself and maybe expand it out. And they all just stay on as an agent because we bring value to them, but at the same time, they like to work here.
Right.
They like to come in on a daily basis and be able to hang out with everybody. And they themselves bring a ton of value to the rest of the agents that are out there.
You guys, and I mean, you've had to bring on, I'm going to use the term poison, someone who oh my God, why did we, you've gone through those trials and tribulations. And that's the one thing, to brag about the Welch team. I think it's a team that's, it wasn't overnight. You guys have developed, your core is still there, you've worked it, and now you guys are so seasoned in your leadership core of all those people you just mentioned, that absorbing someone new coming in that wants to get their business off to a great start, you have the processes in place, you've done it, you're always evolving, but now it's just little tweaks here and there. You probably don't even much notice it anymore. There's not these major turns in the road because you guys have done it, and now you've been through some different seasons, through some different cycles of the real estate. Hopefully nothing like 2008 type thing, whatever, to deal with that. But that's the benefit of coming to the Welch team, in my opinion. If someone was asking why would I go over there, I'd say, well, if you want structure, you want got people that know what they're talking about, and you want to hang around with top people, as the people you just mentioned, there's a group of them right there in that office that you can start hanging out with today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 100%. So, all right. So what are 3 things that someone walked up to you today and said, hey, I just passed my license in my real estate career. Can you give me some advice? What would be the 3 things that you would pass on to them?
Honestly, right now, I tell everyone, if you're new into real estate, find a team that works well for you, because that is your easiest way to learn, educate, experience everything that you're gonna need to be successful in real estate. And then sometimes that just it doesn't have to be like a team. You could be part of a small brokerage. So I always tell people to interview several different brokerages as well. Make sure you find the right place that you fit in with and gel with.
Right. Would you agree the mindset should be you're interviewing them?
Yeah, no, 100%. It should be both ways. You know, for anybody, it's got to be a good match for both sides of it. Because if it's not, one of you is going to quit at some point.
If you're going in with the mindset that you got to find out, are these people good enough for me? That I guarantee the person on the other end is going to appreciate the fact that you're coming in and asking the deep questions of what value are you going to give me? Why should I come work for you? They're going to right away know they've got somebody who is, well, it would give the perception is hungry. and wants to learn.
I mean, that's one of the things we ask in our interviews. Is like, what do you know about our team?
Right.
I mean, if they've done no research on our team, that typically means that they heard a team was good and they heard an opportunity was open, because we always have an agent opportunity within our team, you know. So they just show up, and whether it's a misconception of what a team does, or whether they provide you leads, or they'll get you all the education you want for free. So there's those aspects too. So you have to figure out, is this the right team for me? Is this the right mindset for the brokerage or whatever it might be? But really, the other big thing is, whether you are a team, a single agent, work your sphere right in the beginning. And a lot of times it's doing is like, I just want to let you know I got into real estate. I know you may not trust me right now.
Go through your Christmas card list.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you do. And you constantly do that. If you consistently reach out to your sphere right in the beginning, you will turn that sphere into business much faster than waiting 3 years for when the natural occurrence of getting your sphere to use you.
Christmas list, your wedding invitation list, all those people should know what you're doing day one.
Yeah.
And keep reminding them.
And kind of going back to that sphere piece of it, go get out and go get into, you don't have to go create, like getting into BNI and getting into a networking group is hard, because everybody's a realtor. There's typically one of those already filled out.
Right. They mostly organize them.
Yeah. So you've got to be able to get into your own influences that you are already, or your own groups that you're part of, whether it be your church, your athletic groups, your own personal groups that you're part of. Get into those individual groups and be purposeful with your conversation.
Sponsor the ice cream party for the kids at the Little League team after the game.
Absolutely.
And then handing out your card to everyone. Thank you for coming.
Go volunteer at your favorite charity. All you have to do is show up, and then when people ask you, what do you do? Because that always comes up.
Because it's a typical conversation piece, right?
Let's talk about real estate.
So deeply interview the brokers or the teams, or what they're going to, and value they're going to give you.
Yes.
Work your sphere. One more thing.
Oh, it's a good one.
There's 1,000 things out there for George to choose from.
Don't. I think it's that, like, we go back to that up and down piece of it. Don't get comfortable with what you're doing. Like, if something works, constantly work through that piece of it and continue to grow. But yeah, just don't get comfortable, because I know that happened to me. And just speaking from experience, I had a great October, November. My December, January were like, I can get 5-6 sales a month. I'm great. So I basically took the month of December off, and January hit, and a bunch of things fell apart.
Murphy's Law, man.
Yeah, I have nothing. I had no closings for like 2 months, because then I had to buckle down in January and start building that pipeline again. And of course, none of that turns into business for 3 months. So
that is so, never get comfortable, because you're right. You go, I got those 2 or 3 deals. I'm good. I'm going to get this much. You're counting your commissions already, and you're not putting in the work, and all of a sudden,
things happen.
One of those deals happens. Someone gets fired from their job, whatever. The home inspection. That deal's out. Now you're down to 2. And like, well, we need to push this into next month. It's this, that, or something happened. Oh, the lender found out they had a foreclosure 2 years ago that wasn't on their credit report. Whatever. This stuff happens. And you got to keep pounding and keep pounding and keep pounding every day, because it's feast or famine in our business.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Hopefully, you close 5, and then a downturn happened, or something tragic happened in our world, and that people, like interest rates double in 3 months. That's never seen before. And then people pull back, go, hold on a second. Should I buy, or should I not do anything right now? And you may go a few months where you got a couple of sales versus the 5 that you're used to, right? And that's so important. Consistency, keep pounding, no matter what you do. Use the team, use the transaction coordinators. You've got to put the time aside, otherwise you're up and down. And loan officers do the same thing. Right. And it's all about prospecting. You got to be consistent with it, 100%. So
100%. And that people just get, and it's natural. You see success, you think it's going to continue to work, but it doesn't always stay that way. So you've always got to be changing things up, constantly working at it. And it's just like anything. If you don't perfect it, if you don't constantly work on your trade, it's gonna.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about our business is the only thing really between both of us, the only thing that actually holds us back is really ourselves. So if you start finding your things and learning what other people are doing and implement it and find out what works for you and just keep doing it, and keep adding to your belt. All right, my 2-minute warning questions. Is it more important who you know or what you know?
I'll say what you know.
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you know what you're talking about, eventually that works to your favor than always knowing the right person.
I would disagree. I'd say if you didn't know Christina Welch, you probably wouldn't be in real estate today.
Probably not. That's true.
What's on your travel bucket list?
I'm not a big traveler, but I mean, I've always wanted to kind of go to like Europe, do like a Italy type of tour. I'd love to do that one day with family, but just don't know when I'll.
That's the one thing when you're self-employed and it's like, hey, I got to keep going. That eventually sometimes you have to, you know what? I've done well with these 11 months. I'm going to take December off and I'm going to go to Italy or whatever. Yeah, that's the toughest decision you have in your life.
Yes.
That's crazy. George, I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you.
Here's my last question, because normally I changed my sheet up when I had to revamp it. One last question. Besides communication, okay, what is the number two thing that you require? Because everyone says communication. When working with your loan officer or other referral partners, your home inspector and so forth, what do you require of them consistently for you to refer them month in and month out?
Honestly, I think to me, loyalty is important. And it varies depending on what situation is. Like somebody cut me a break and like I called them, it's like, hey, I need a home inspection done quickly, or hey, I really need this, figure out something to do with
and
this
I've been
loan.
sending you business, so how long can you move me up front? Because
help me out.
I'm not asking because I want to ask. I'm asking because I have to ask. Yeah,
exactly.
I
try not to, throw that in people's faces. So it's like, hey, I get a ton of business, and I don't want people to take advantage of me in the same way. That hey, I send you a ton of business. Can you cut my commission?
It should automatically be natural,
right? So it's when you need it that I think I like that is important to me personally. So I think that's probably my number.
No, that's good. As a team, they should know that you're not asking for that favor, move you up front just because you just want to be greedy and your person be next. Right. You're asking because because in our business, there's a lot of things that you and I don't control, and stuff happens, and hey, the seller's not going to do. Seller will take this offer if it closes this month, so I need that home inspection done like right now.
Yes.
Yeah, and that stuff comes up, and that's what a team's all about, and the team should pick up the ball. And I totally agree. So communicate. You would agree communication.
Communication.
Everyone said communication. Number one.
You always need that. Yeah. I mean, it's important to have that, but I think loyalty will be number two for me.
Yeah. For sure. Well, I appreciate you coming on today.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.